Let's make a Hoosier cream pie with an oil pie crust, an oil pastry. That's all I use. Okay, so I'm gonna do a double pie crust because I'm also doing a peanut butter pie today. So I'm gonna do a double pie crust. I'm gonna tell you double and how to do it. So for a single pie crust, you would use 2 cups of flour. So I'm gonna use about 4. There's 1.5, 3, about 4 cups. I've been doing this a long time. I can kind of guess on some of this. All right, to that I'm going to add a little bit of sugar. You need a little bit in your pie crust, and a little bit of salt. About that much. Now, like I said, I use an oil pastry. And I've got 1 cup of oil with a 1/2 cup of milk. And I always just give it a little whisk. 1 cup of oil, 1/2 cup of milk. This is for the double crust. So if you were doing a single crust, it would be 2 cups of flour, a dash of salt, a little sugar, 1/2 cup of oil, and 1/4 cup of milk. Use half as much milk as you do oil. Your oil is what gives it the flakiness. You don't want to forget that. I know I had a spoon out here. It's right beside my bowl. It was hiding. Okay, give it a stir. Don't want to over mix it. That may be a tiny bit too moist. I'm gonna add just a little bit of flour. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time and I know what this is supposed to look like. It's just coming together. Now to roll out this pie crust, you want to use wax paper. I do have my mat out, my favorite rolling pin, the French rolling pin. I actually have 2 of them now because of generosity from a couple of friends. And I use them all the time. I've still got my grandmother's rolling pin that I haven't used 1 time since I've got this. So I lay down my wax paper, put just a tiny bit of flour. You don't even have to do that. I just do. You can actually do this without it. And I'm just gonna get 1/2 of this, make it into a ball, flatten it into a disc, and roll out my pie crust. And I move it several times to make sure I'm doing a nice circle. And then if you just kind of lift your wax paper up off your crust a little bit, from time to time it doesn't stick. Go like that. Then I rotate the crust a little. I remember when we were in home ec class, roll from the center. Don't roll on your edges. You'll make your edges too thin and your middle of your crust will be thick. Do you remember those kind of things from school where every time you start to do something, you hear that little voice in your head? I do, particularly with home ec class. That was one of my favorites. That's no surprise, is it? Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, we're gonna put it right in a pie shell with the oil pastry. That piece broke off because it wasn't on wax paper. That's okay, we'll use it for the next one. I have a deep dish pie shell. Doesn't have to be deep dish. That's what I wanted. And you can just move it right with the wax paper. It should peel right off. And if we have to fix a few spots, that will be easy to do. Had a few blemishes. And we're gonna go right like this. And where I had some extra, I'm gonna put it right there where it was a little thin. And now we're just gonna shape our crust. That's another little spot that needed a little love. And then I'm gonna pre-bake this or par bake it. Because I'm making a sugar cream pie in this pie shell, I want to be sure that my pie crust is done and that it's not soggy on the bottom. So I'm gonna put this in a 425-degree oven for, 7 to 10 minutes. I want to be able to see that the bottom crust particularly is baking, or it'll be soggy on the bottom. But I don't want the edges to get over brown. Do you know how to fix that? You can just lay a piece of foil across your pie shell, or you can be really fancy and tear little strips and just put it on the edges. I don't do that. I just lay a whole sheet on top, and it still does the trick. You see me? I'm piecing this together like Play-Doh. And then once I get all of the crust how I want it, then I'm just going to go through and flute it. You can use a fork and kind of fork down the edges, but I like a fluted edge myself. How do you like it? Every once in a while, I'll take pie crust and make little shapes. Like Valentine's Day's coming up, I'll probably make a pie and it'll have little hearts all the way around. You know, fun stuff. Seasonal. Celebratory. That's it. Some people, when they par bake, put weights or beans in their pie shell. I don't care if it bubbles. It'll be fine. I'm just going to poke a few holes with a fork and put it in the oven.